Sirens shattered the quiet lake morning as red and blue lights danced across the water. "Arrest her, she destroyed community property," screamed Elaine, our HOA president, jabbing her finger at my wife. Emily stood frozen, clutching a broken lock, humiliated. What began with a $20 padlock ended in federal court. That morning started like any other at our grandfather's old lake cabin. The sun shimmered on the water, Emily sat on the deck sketching lesson plans for her students, and I was inside scrambling eggs. It felt peaceful, one of those rare mornings where the world seems perfect. Our cabin had been in the family for decades. My grandfather built it with his own hands, and even the worn deck boards carried memories. But not everything aged gracefully. The gate at the entrance, rusted, squeaky, hanging on by luck, was one of those things. The old lock had become a daily battle. Emily, tired of wrestling with it, drove into town earlier that week and bought a simple replacement, a $20 padlock from the hardware store. Nothing fancy, nothing suspicious, just a working lock. That morning, while I cooked breakfast, she decided to finally change it. I thought nothing of it. She wasn't vandalizing, just fixing. But little did we know, that tiny act of maintenance would spiral into one of the most outrageous battles of our lives. Because while Emily swapped out that lock, our neighbor was dialing 911. It started with sirens. Not one, not two, 3 patrol cars barreling down the narrow lake road like someone had just robbed a bank. The sound echoed through the pine trees, chilling the air. I stepped onto the porch just in time to see Emily standing by the gate, confused, holding the old broken lock in one hand and the packaging from the new one in the other. Behind her, Elaine Collins, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, was in full performance mode. Arms flailing, voice shrill, she pointed at my wife as if Emily had committed treason. "She destroyed community property." Elaine screamed, her voice bouncing off the water. "This is vandalism. Arrest her immediately." The sight was almost surreal. Emily looked more embarrassed than angry. Her face flushed red as neighbors peeked out from their porches, whispering, staring, judging. 3 squad cars surrounded her over a padlock. I could see the officers exchange glances, the same look you get when you realize you've been dragged into a circus instead of a crime scene. But Elaine wouldn't stop. She launched into a dramatic monologue about community safety and unauthorized modifications, waving at the gate like it was a crime scene. And all Emily had done was fix what was broken. Backhand index pointing right. What would you have done if your spouse was surrounded by police for simply replacing a lock? Comment below. I'm genuinely curious. One officer, Martinez, finally stepped forward. "Ma'am," he asked Elaine, "what exactly is the crime here?" "She altered community infrastructure without permission." Elaine barked. "This gate belongs to the neighborhood. She endangered everyone's safety." Emily looked at me helplessly, like she wanted me to step in and bring sanity back into the picture. So I did. I went inside, dug through my grandfather's old filing box, and pulled out the property deed. It clearly showed the boundary, the gate, the road, and everything around it. 10 feet inside our property line. No HOA claim. No gray area. When I handed it to Officer Martinez, his eyebrows shot up. He turned to Elaine, who was already sputtering excuses. "Ma'am, this is their property," he said firmly. Elaine's face twisted, but she wouldn't back down. "The gate serves the whole community. It's community property whether the deed says so or not." The second officer shook his head. "This is a civil HOA issue, not a criminal one. You cannot call 911 for disputes like this." Martinez added, "Ma'am, misusing emergency services can get you in trouble." For the first time, Elaine went quiet. I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. A few days later, Sheriff Anderson, an old friend of mine, called. He'd heard about the incident and laughed at the absurdity of 3 patrol cars racing to stop a lock change. But then he said something that made me pause. "You should request the 911 call transcript," he suggested. "Sometimes people exaggerate. Might be interesting to see what Elaine told dispatch." So I did. And when the transcript arrived, Emily and I sat at the kitchen table and listened. Elaine hadn't just reported lock replacement. She told dispatchers there were suspicious individuals tampering with security equipment. She claimed possible vandalism of community property. She even insisted multiple units were required. But then came the part that made our blood run cold. The dispatcher asked about her connection to the property. Elaine casually mentioned her husband, Robert Collins of Lakefront Development Solutions. She claimed security was a community concern due to upcoming development projects. Emily froze. Did she just say development projects? I replayed it. Elaine had basically confessed on a recorded 911 call that her emergency wasn't about safety at all. It was about business. We dug deeper. Within hours of research, we uncovered plans for a massive luxury resort, 200 suites, golf course, marina, all requiring access through our road. And guess whose property blocked it? Ours. Elaine wasn't just being a control freak. She was trying to clear the way for millions in profit. And we were standing in her way. From that day on, life at the cabin turned into a nightmare. It started with violation notices. Elaine marched to our porch at 7:30 a.m. with her clipboard, snapping photos like a detective. Your deck railings are below code. Your shoreline fire pit violates regulations. Emily read the papers twice and realized none of it was real. Elaine was inventing rules out of thin air. Then came the blockade. 2 cars parked sideways across our driveway one morning, trapping us in. Elaine stood there smugly. Temporary traffic control, she said. HOA orders. Emily nearly exploded, but I told her to start filming everything. We got license plates, photos, timestamps. Days later, fake inspectors showed up, 2 men in uniforms claiming to be municipal compliance officers. They waved papers that looked official, warning of immediate court proceedings. Emily, sharp-eyed as ever, spotted flaws, wrong case numbers, fake seals, signatures that didn't match. She called the real court clerk on speakerphone while neighbors watched. And just like that, the fraud unraveled. Still, Elaine didn't stop. She taped a $3,700 fine notice to our door. She spread petitions around the neighborhood, convincing others that our cabin was unsafe. Some neighbors signed without question, pressured by her lies. The breaking point came when sweet old Mrs. Patterson, who'd lived beside my grandfather for decades, apologized. Elaine told me your cabin might collapse into the lake. She said it was dangerous. Emily's face turned crimson. She lied to you, Mrs. Patterson. Our cabin is solid. She just wants us gone. That night, Emily spread every forged document, every photo, every recording across the table. This isn't neighbor drama anymore, she whispered. This is organized harassment. And she was right. We realized we couldn't fight Elaine quietly anymore. So Emily did something bold. She set up her laptop on our deck, lake glittering behind her, and went live. She invited neighbors to watch as she revealed the truth. One by one, she held up documents, the forged violation notices, the fake court orders, the bogus liens. She showed the mismatched seals and phony signatures. She played the 911 recording for everyone to hear. Elaine's voice blared across the live stream. Suspicious individuals, tampering with security equipment, multiple units needed. The comments section exploded. Neighbors who had trusted Elaine were shocked. Some messaged apologies in real time, realizing they'd been manipulated. Detective Morrison, already monitoring, stepped in. What you've documented isn't just HOA abuse, she said. This is federal crime. Impersonation, fraud, conspiracy. Suddenly, it wasn't just about us. This was bigger. Much bigger. Backhand index pointing right, be honest. Would you confront a corrupt neighbor live on camera? Or would you stay silent? Tell me in the comments. A week later, FBI agents sat at our kitchen table. They had thick files, serious faces, and one plan, a sting operation. We want you to pretend you're ready to sell, Agent Williams said. We'll record everything. Elaine will incriminate herself. Emily and I agreed. It was terrifying but necessary. That afternoon, Elaine showed up with Robert and 2 so-called federal compliance officers. They brought contracts, cameras, and fake government credentials. Robert slid papers across the table, offering a price far below market value. "This resolves all your problems," Elaine said sweetly. "Sign now, and you'll be free of legal trouble." Emily feigned desperation. "If we sign, will the harassment stop?" "Of course," Elaine said. That's when the door burst open. Real federal agents stormed in. "Elaine Collins, you are under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and impersonating federal officers." Elaine's victory smile froze. Robert's face went pale. The fake officers dropped their props as handcuffs clicked. In less than 10 minutes, the nightmare we'd endured for weeks collapsed. Months later, we sat in federal court, watching Elaine and Robert stand before the judge. Elaine pleaded guilty to 911 abuse, fraud, and impersonation. Robert admitted to conspiracy and forfeited his development company. The judge's words were stern. "You weaponized government authority for profit. That is a grave crime." Other families testified too. Mrs. Parker described fake environmental inspectors who tricked her into selling her cottage for half its value. The Johnsons shared how they'd been driven out by endless fines and threats. Then Emily spoke. She stood tall, voice trembling but powerful. "Your Honor, this woman turned a $20 lock replacement into a federal crime scene. She tried to steal the home my grandfather built. She made me afraid to fix a simple broken gate. I spoke, too, about watching my wife nearly get arrested for maintenance, and how that absurd moment uncovered millions in fraud." The judge sentenced Elaine to 18 months in prison, plus restitution. Robert got 2 years and lost every property gained through fraud. Justice, finally. Today, a new lock guards our cabin gate. On it, Emily engraved a brass plaque, "Reed Family Property, protected by federal court order." Every time I see it shine in the sunlight, I think of how a $20 lock exposed millions in corruption. Maybe the lesson is simple. Control freaks will always push until someone pushes back. So I'll ask you, what would you have done if this happened to your family? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Stay sharp. Protect what's yours. And don't ever let anyone rewrite the rules of your own front gate.